So as the title of this video suggests, this is going to be going over my training schedule, both the long-term and the short-term, what I'm doing right now. So before we start, I do have a little cheat sheet here. I just want to make sure that I don't, gloss over anything. So if you see me looking down at my notes, I'm just making sure that I'm trying to hit everything that I want to hit on. So first off, just full disclosure, I've taken bits and pieces from many different training plans, but really the majority of the information in this plan is custom made by me, I guess I should say, tailored for my own schedule demands. So a lot of the principles have been taken from different people, but in terms of the actual structure, it's pretty much totally independent on my end. But I do want to give out to a couple of people who have been very influential with my whole structuring process. Those two people are Connor Shunk and Dylan Johnson. So Connor is a pro cyclist for Evolo Cycling, and he actually lived with me for a few weeks while he was in the area training. So I definitely tried to pick his brain during that time, and he taught me a lot. So thank you very much, Connor. And then Dylan Johnson is a very well-known YouTuber who also lives in my hometown. And I've definitely taken a lot of his principles and ideas and tried to apply them to my training structure as well. So big shout out to Dylan. I'll leave a link to his channel in the description here. Okay, so my schedule. Just general overview, I had about a month-long base period, which was solely zone 2, a build period that I just finished, a high intensity period that I'm in right now, and then obviously we'll have the tapering period at the end of this high intensity period, just leading up to the race. So that means that December was only zone 2. I had surgery on November 6th, and I really anticipated being able to start training a little bit towards the tail end of November, and that just didn't happen. The recovery process was a little bit longer than I thought, so realistically I started doing some easy bikes and easy runs like the first week of December, I think, to be exact. So really all of December was just very easy zone 2 work. So then anyway, then we move into January. So January we started doing 80% zone 2, so majority of training is still at that low intensity, but then 20% was at threshold pace, and we kept this up for January and February. So January and February we'll call them the threshold or the build, was the build block of this training phase. So to give you a little glimpse into what that looked like, I have a running workout here from February 17th, 6.59 miles, about an hour, and this exact workout was 2 times 2.5 miles at 7 minutes and 30 seconds per mile, with a 10-minute rest in between each 2.5 mile set. So these were pretty tricky. Now that we've finished this phase and we're doing the high intensity stuff is definitely also very difficult, but they're very different. Like the threshold to me was more of a mental challenge, whereas the high intensity stuff is usually just your body starts to sort of give out towards the end. But nonetheless, these long continued efforts, whether it be a run or a bike at that threshold intensity, are very, very tough. So anyway, still in the threshold block here. Here's a bike workout from March 1st. So it's about an hour and a half, 13 miles. And this workout was 4 times 11.5 minutes at FTP with 6.5 minutes of rest in between each set. So for me, I think at this time my FTP was something like 267 or so. So I'm pretty sure I was trying to hold that. So average power looks like 265, 261, 265, and then 267. So yeah, it's pretty close to where we needed it to be for that, which was solid. So that's January and February, and now we're gonna go ahead and move into March, which is where I actually switched over into the high intensity phase of this training block. So with that said, we'll go ahead and pull up a run here from March 29th. This was 55 minutes, 4.38 miles, and this was 8 times 400 meters or 0.25 miles roughly at pretty much full gas with 1 minute and 20 seconds of recovery. And then we did this on a hill, just a little local gravel road. And then we'll go ahead and check out a HIIT bike workout that I did Thursday of this week. We did Tabata intervals, so 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. We're supposed to do 2 sets of 10 reps at 400 watts, but I think we actually ended up doing, I think it was something like two sets of 11 reps at around 400 watts with 30 seconds recovery, and then we did that twice, okay, with a 10-minute rest in between each of the sets. And like I said, each of those sets consisted of 11 reps. So that was solid. I think for the next one, I'm going to try to bump the wattage up a little bit, just because you'll see here on the chart, my heart rate only got up to 183. Granted, it could be a little bit of fatigue. I noticed on that run too, my heart rate didn't get very high, so I'm a little suspicious there. But in terms of like perceived exertion, I didn't quite feel like it was as hard as it should have been. So we'll bump the wattage up a little bit for the next Tabata interval that we do. Okay, so that takes us through March into April, where we are now. So we're just going to continue these same HIIT interval workouts. Apparently it only takes about 6 of these sessions to be in your peak fitness. So I think we've hit like 2 with the bike and then 2 running. So really 4 more and we'll be pretty much where we need to be, which is going to time out perfect. So that will take us through April into May. And then we'll do about a week of training in May. And then May 8th, we're going to go ahead and start our taper leading into the race, which is on May 15th. Okay. And then also, I should mention, for swimming, we did a lot of pool work in the early phases. So there was a lot of swimming in December, pool swimming in December through basically February. And then March, we started doing a couple open water swims. It's just cold, so it's really hard to get out. Started doing a few open water swims in March. And then that was also when I really started doing some good swimming intervals, which I must admit, like I've got to do a little bit more research. I feel like that is the discipline that I have the least amount of HIIT research in, is swimming. So I've got a couple little workouts, but I need to probably expand my HIIT workouts for the swim a little bit. So the example that I'll give here was about 35 minutes, 950 yards. And the actual workout that we did was 5 sets of 50 yards, all out sprint basically, but really trying to focus on the form because that's so essential with the swim, with 45 seconds rest in between each rep. So that was a good one. I think we followed that up with just a little, I forget, maybe 100 yards easier, 200 yards or something. But yeah, that was a nice little interval there for the pool. And so now I'm going to be looking down a little bit because I've got my training week lined up here, and I'll display it up on the screen. So it's now April 4th today, so today is an active recovery day, but I'll sort of take you guys through this past week. So Monday we did the HIIT run. I think it was the 400 meter repeats that I just showed you guys, a 1 hour bike, open water swim, and then legs. So I'll go through this and then I'll talk about that. Tuesday we did a mock triathlon, so I'll throw up some of the data. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. Yeah, so the mock triathlon was supposed to be a 1,500 yard swim, and we did that in 29 minutes and 18 seconds. And I calculated that pace, but I forget what it is, so I'll throw it up on the screen here. We then did a approximately 35-mile bike ride over some hills, so it was really a little bit more than that. We did that in 1 hour and 58 minutes. And then we did an 8-mile run in 1 hour and 8 minutes at a 8:32 minute per mile pace. So that was really solid. We then had an active recovery day on Wednesday. And then Thursday we went out and did those Tabata intervals that I showed you guys. And then I like to brick 2 days a week, so I brick the triathlon day, obviously, and then I like to also do a brick after a hard bike, just so you can kind of get used to the heavy legs. So after those Tabata intervals, we went out and did a little 30-minute run, and then Friday we had a long bike, little 30-minute run, and then yesterday, just had a nice long run, nothing crazy, it was only an hour, and then we just had a 30-minute bike, and we did our speed swim for the week, and then Sunday, today, we've just got active recovery. So to summarize all of that, my current plan, we have one hard run, which right now is high intensity or race specific, per week, one hard bike, high intensity or race specific, one long run, zone 2, one long bike, zone 2, and then actually it's 2 brick days. And then we actually have, like I said, the brick day that's after the intense bike, or if it's a triathlon day, we actually alternate the intensity of those days. So one week it'll just be an easy triathlon day, and the next week it'll be a little bit more difficult. So the one that we just did was difficult, so the one on this upcoming week will just be an easy mock triathlon day, if you will. And then we've also got 2 active recovery days throughout the week. So for me, those are on Sunday and then Wednesday. And then in terms of swimming, we have 2 open water swims. We have a speed or interval swim, and then we have a technique swim, and then we have the triathlon swim, which is also an open water swim. So I feel like that's going well. Definitely got a lot to work on with the swim. It's so technique oriented, so I'm really hesitant to go out and crush it on the intervals without having good technique, so that's really crucial. Strength work, I do want to talk a little bit about that. So I try to make sure that I do my intense leg days immediately after a high intensity session. So immediately after I did my Tabata intervals the other day, I went out and just did, it's nothing crazy at this point in the year because your legs are going to be sore, but just go out and do some squats, maybe do a few other extra exercises, and then same thing after a run, a high intensity run day, you go out and do some squats or something. And then if I can do upper body on the other days when I'm feeling good, I'll do that, but it's really tough to squeeze in those strength workouts. So I've been doing a decent job, but it's tough to squeeze them in because you've got to do all those other things. So in conclusion, I do want to add, I have dialed back the run volume after seeing a little bit of overtraining. Had an injury in my foot, and then I had an injury in my other ankle, had an injury in my knee, and I was a little bit suspicious because I am a new runner, so it isn't unusual for someone to run themselves into an injury when you go from not doing any running to doing a relatively high volume of running like I'm doing. So I was a little bit skeptical there, but then I actually looked and saw, I'll throw it up on the screen here, Jan Frodeno's numbers relative, I think it's relative to his Ironman times. And if you look here, he actually spends the least amount of time, 4 hours and 34 minutes to be exact, training in the run discipline out of all the 3 disciplines. So his run is 4 hours and 34 minutes, his bike is 12 hours and 15 minutes, and then his swim is 4 hours and 51 minutes. So you can look there, if this guy has been doing it for years and he's doing it, he arguably the greatest of all time, definitely the greatest of this generation, and he's only running 4.5 hours a week. So that really made me step back and say, okay, maybe I am a new runner, but maybe I don't need, it's not normal to have this high volume. So I've dialed the running volume back a little bit. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give you a little bit of insight into what my training plan looks like, and I'll see you in the next one.